And we're going to start with practice number 2. Down Under Boomerang is considering investing in a 3-year expansion project that requires an initial fixed asset investment of $2.43 million. The fixed asset will be depreciated straight line to zero over its 3-year tax life. The project is estimated to generate $1.99 million in annual sales with costs of $685,000. The project requires an initial investment in net working capital of $210,000. And the fixed asset will have a market value of $305,000 at the end of the project. Okay, first thing I want to do with a problem like this is figure out how many years. We know this thing has a 3-year life, but how many years will I actually be looking at? Yeah, I'm going to be looking at 0, 1, 2, and 3. Now, the next question is this. We know that year 0 is going to be different because we have our increase in net working capital, we have our net capital spending, and we don't have any operating cash flow. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to say we're going to have one column for year 0. And we know that year 3 is going to be different because it's going to have the reduction in net working capital and it's going to have the after-tax salvage value. So we're going to have a separate column for it. But what about years 1 and 2? Are they any different? No, so we're going to save ourselves a lot of time and suffering, and we're just going to say 1 and 2, and then we're going to have a column for year 3. And for each of these, we want to have the operating cash flow, the net capital spending, and the change in net working capital. And if you recall, what we're going to do is say operating cash flow minus the net capital spending minus the change in net working capital. And what's that going to give us?
Cash flow from us.
Oh, very good. I was getting ready to call on you because you were being chatty, but you were ahead of me there, so thank you. Now you know the secret. Okay, so let's start by talking about year 0. Is there ever any operating cash flow in year 0? Nope. Now, what about net capital spending? Remember, net capital spending is a positive number if the money's going out. That's why we're going to have to subtract it. So here we're going to put a positive sign on this. How much is going out then?
2.4.
Yeah, 2.43 million. 2,430,000. Now, what happens to net working capital at time 0? I'll give you a hint. The project requires an initial investment of what?
200.
Yeah, so it's going to go up by 210,000, and once again, that's a positive sign. It's going up, but we're going to subtract that when we get done here. In fact, let's go ahead and figure this out. I think we've got 0 minus 2.43 million minus 0.21 million. I think we have minus $2,640,000. Does that look right? Okay. Now, for years 1 and 2 and 3, we're going to have operating cash flow, but we don't know the operating cash flow yet, so we're going to have to figure it out. So we're looking at the incremental values here. What is the incremental increase in sales as a result of this project? 1,990,000. That's our sales. What's our incremental cost?
685.
685? Okay. Okay. Now, there's something else that we have to subtract before we can find our pre-tax income. Does anybody know what it is?
Depreciation.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so we're gonna have to put depreciation in here, but we don't know depreciation yet. They tell us that this thing is 2.43 million, and how is it depreciated?
Straight line.
Straight line to
0.
over the which year life?
3.
3. So what we're really looking for depreciation-wise is 2.43 million divided by 3, which I believe is 810,000. Ms. Volkova, is that correct? Very good. I know I can ask her because she and I are the only ones in the room who can do math in our heads. Most of the time. Yeah, hey, occasionally I screw up too. Feel free to put that in your calculator and then make fun of me if I've got it wrong. Okay, so here we go, 810,000. Now, we're going to, by the way, subtract cost, subtract depreciation to come up with our pre-tax income. So, can anyone give me do this math here, 1,990,000. Let's see if I can do this in my head. 1,170. Okay, I've got a number in my head, but someone tell me what it is.
495,000.
Very good, I was wrong.
Sorry. Or I was wrong.
Okay, well, can someone confirm her number, please?
Yeah.
Okay, very good, thank you. Okay, now, what can we calculate now that we know pre-tax income?
After tax.
Okay, but we actually have to figure out, they tell us the tax rate, 24%, right? So can anyone tell me what 24% of this pre-tax income is?
118,800.
Does that sound right? Okay, now we know, do we have to take it any farther than this? What we know that OCF is equal to EBIT minus taxes plus depreciation. Where do I find EBIT up here in all these numbers? Yeah, it's pre-tax income because there's no interest involved here, right? Okay, so it's just earnings before taxes, basically. So what we're going to do is say 495,000 minus the taxes of 118,800, and then we're going to add back our depreciation of 810,000 bucks. Why am I adding back depreciation? That's a non-cash expense, right? That wasn't really cash going out. By the way, I'm going to try putting another zero in there so you can see it. There we go. Okay. So let's see, 505,000, 1.305 million minus that. Can someone tell me what that number is, please?
118,620.
Oh, very good. So that's correct?
Yeah. Okay.
Where does that go on my chart over here?
Operating cash flow.
Very good. 118,620. 118,620. Can anyone tell me what the net capital spending in years 1 and 2 is? Yeah, it's nothing, right?
That's like a trick question.
No. And what about the change in net working capital? Yeah, 0. Okay. So, now, what do we know? Oh, so we can go ahead and do this. 1,186,200. Now, we know we have changes for both net capital spending and net working capital here at the end. The easy one is net working capital. What's going to happen to net working capital at the end?
Subtracted.
Yeah, it's got to go back to 0. And so basically, it's just the opposite. Right? Okay, now we've got to figure out how much money we're going to get out of this pig when we sell it. And they've told us that it's going to have a market value of $305,000 at the end of the project. Is that the amount of money that we're going to get? No, why not?
The tax.
Yeah, so what we've got to figure out is the after-tax salvage value. After-tax salvage value is equal to market value minus the tax rate times market value minus the book value. Okay, so in this case, the book value is 0, right? And so we're really just looking at market value times 1 minus the tax rate. Can you see that mathematically? Okay, 1 minus the tax rate is 0.76. So we're looking at 305,000 times 0.76. Can someone tell me what that number is?
304,999.
Oh my goodness. So say that one more time.
Let me do the calculation.
So it's going to be about 3/4 of this. So we're looking at something in the 200,000 range.
231.
How much?
231.
231, how much?
800.
800, very good, thank you. try to develop a feel for what numbers should be, right?
Yeah.
Because this is the problem with you guys being trained on calculators. You don't have an instinctive feel for what numbers should be. Okay, 231,800, and by the way, that's negative spending, right? That's money back in. Okay, so for this last cash flow, we're going to take this number minus
So
this
plus.
number. Yeah, and this number is a minus, so say it again, Ms. Bowman.
Plus.
Plus this number. So we're just going to basically add those numbers together. How much? I sure hope it's 1.628 million. It is? Okay. Okay, now we have all these numbers. Can anyone tell me where we're going to go on the calculator to find the net present value? CF, hit CF, second, clear work. CF, second, clear work. Did you not bring your calculator today, Mr. Green? Mr. Green, you disappoint me.
I know.
Okay. Okay, so CF, second, clear work. What am I going to put in for CF0?
Negative 2.64.
Yeah, so put in 202.64 million and hit that plus minus button, and then what do you have to hit?
Enter.
Enter, very good. Let's get that done. What are we going to do next, Mr. Green? Even though you don't have it here, I know you know. What do we do next?
Is it the MPV button?
Oh, damn, you're like 6 steps ahead of us. He's living in the future. Okay, how about arrow down?
Oh,
Right, yeah, there you go. Okay, so now your calculator says C01 equals, what do you type in there?
C0. Or C1.
C1, yeah. So we're going to put 1186200, and then you're going to hit enter. And then, I'm going to give Mr. Green another shot here. What button do we hit next?
0 down.
Yeah, very good, the arrow down. Now your calculator probably says F01. I sure hope it does. Now, here's the question. What do I put in for F01, Mr. Baurechter? 2, why 2?
This is for years 1 and 2.
Yeah, it's for years 1 and 2. So put that in, and then you got to hit enter. And then, Mr. Osawawu, what button do I hit next?
We hit the arrow down.
Yeah, you hit the arrow down. So hit the arrow down, and now your calculator says C02. So what are we going to put in for C02? 1.628 million bucks, and then we're going to hit enter. Now we don't have to do it, but you could hit arrow down here, and F02 would be how much? 1. But it's already in there, so don't worry about doing that. Now, I'm going to get back to, so Mr. Green was living in the future. Hopefully he's caught up to us in the past now. What button do I hit next?
I hope it's MPV.
Yeah, it's NPV. Very good.
My time's coming.
Hey, he's on fire. Okay, so you want to hit NPV. Now it says I equals, what do we put in for I?
18.
18, because it says the required return is 18%. So go ahead and put 18 in, hit enter, and what do I do now?
Arrow down.
Arrow down, and then
Compute.
compute. Very good. Arrow down, compute. What do you get? Yeah. Isn't that easy? Okay, so here's the deal. Did you see how much time that took? When you see a problem like this on the exam, what should you do?
Skip it.
Skip it. Come back when you know you've whipped out all the easy ones and you're feeling fresh and smart. Boom. Then you jump on stuff like that. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, so I will cross these off as we go. Now someone's asked for number 3. By the way, is it okay if I go ahead and erase this? Any objections?
Is this the hardest chapter you think on that?
It depends on the individual. I'll tell you what chapter isn't the hardest one, that's chapter 7.
Yeah. Just switch your images.
Okay, here we go. Oh, this is a lovely one. Your firm is contemplating the purchase of a new $575,000 computer-based order entry system. The system will be depreciated straight line to zero over its 5-year life. It will be worth $59,000 at the end of that time. You're going to save $265,000 before taxes per year in order processing costs. You'll be able to reduce your working capital by $74,000. And it's a one-time reduction. You get your tax rate of 21%, and they want to know what is the IRR. Oh man, this is a great one. Okay, so the first thing is, how many years is this project? 5, but how many years are we going to talk about? 6. So we know year 0 is going to be different. Let's see, OCF minus NCS. Minus change in net working capital. Okay, we know year 0 is going to be different because we have no operating cash flow, we have net capital spending, and we have a change in net working capital. And then we know year 5 is going to be different because we're going to have a change in net working capital. We're going to have whatever we can sell this thing for. I don't know if we can, but we know that year 5 is going to be different. But what about years 1 through 4? Yeah, they're all the same. And so there's no reason for you to have 6 columns on your paper. No reason at all. Okay, now, net capital spending. How much are we going to spend? $575,000, is that right? Okay, now, here's where it gets funky. What's going on with the net working capital? Usually when we do projects, at the beginning, net working capital goes up. Right? Well, at the beginning. At the beginning, it usually goes up. In this case, what's going on? It actually goes down, right? This is an order processing system that supposedly, apparently, allows you to reduce your inventory because it's just so great, right? Okay, so what does that mean? It means this change in net working capital is actually minus $74,000 right here instead of plus. Does that make sense? Okay, that's usually what trips people up about this problem. Now, we know there's not a change in net working capital here. There's not a change in net capital spending here. But what about over here on the right-hand side? What has to happen? Yeah, it's got to be 74,000 to the positive, right? Because we know that these things, this whole has to equal 0. Has to. Okay. Now, net capital spending for year 5 here. It does say worth $59,000 at the end. We're going to have to figure out the after-tax salvage value. After-tax salvage value is equal to market value minus taxes times market value minus book value. By the way, what do they say they're depreciating this thing to over its life? 0. So what's book value here? 0. And so once again, we're basically looking at market value times 1 minus t, which is not always going to be the case because you could have a book value at the end like we did with our example in the class, the Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so now they tell us the market value is how much?
59,000.
Yeah, 59,000. And what is our tax rate?
21%.
21%. So I think that is 1 minus t is 0.79. Does that sound right? Okay, so what do we have for our after-tax salvage value here?
46,600.
46,600. Is that right?
610.
610. Oh, very good. $610. Okay. Now, over here, net capital spending, that's actually money coming in, so what should the sign be on it?
Negative.
Negative, because it's negative spending. Negative 46,610. All right. What is the one thing that we have to calculate that we haven't calculated yet? Okay, well, so we're going to do that. But in order to find that, we're going to have to find OCF. Okay, so let's see what this thing is telling us it's going to do. It's telling us that it's going to save us $265,000 a year before taxes. A lot of times people get freaked out because they say, well, wait a minute, where's the revenue? Folks, if I can avoid spending money, that's like revenue, right? If I could avoid paying my mortgage, I could avoid spending $1,589 a month. I know I have a cheap mortgage. I am so pleased. Okay, so probably less than some of your rent, right? Okay, so, but if I can avoid paying that, then I've got that extra money that I don't have to spend. Okay, so now we're looking at $265,000. And what do they say happens to the cost as a result of this project? Does anything happen to cost? No. Sweet. Okay, so there's nothing we have to subtract out here as far as cost of goods sold or anything like that. What's the other thing I've got to subtract out before I can calculate? Yeah, I got to have depreciation. And so they said this thing costs $575,000. And how many years are we depreciating that over? 5. Is that 115,000 depreciation? Okay, minus 115,000. I believe that's 150,000 in my pre-tax income, or pre-tax income, right? Okay, so our tax rate is 21%. Can someone tell me what 21% of 150,000 bucks is?
31,500.
31,500. Very good. Okay, so now I have basically EBIT, I have taxes, and I have depreciation. Can I figure OCF? Yeah, it's just OCF is equal to EBIT, 150,000, minus the taxes of $31,500 plus depreciation of $115,000. Can someone tell me what that is? 433,000? 233,500. Does that look right to everybody else? Okay. So now we've got this number here, 233,500, 233,500. And so now we can start doing some math here. So this is 0 minus this plus this. So I think this is minus $501,000. Does that look right? Okay, now this one's really easy. On this one, we have 233,500 minus 46,610. So what is that? 279, no, 280, 110?
Yeah.
280, 110, and then minus 74. So was it 206, 110?
Yeah.
It's too real. You can't deny me, right? I do this in my head. Now, as soon as I brag like that, you know what's going to happen?
You're gonna.
I'm going to screw it up. Yeah, okay.
Hubris.
Yeah, exactly. Very good. Okay, now, what are we going to do next? Say again?
Put it in the calculator.
Yeah, put it in the calculator. Where am I going to stick it? Just anywhere? CF! CF second, clear work. What is CF 0?
Negative 500.
Yeah, negative 501,000, and then we've got to hit the enter button. And we've got to hit the enter button. Ms. Avila, what do we hit next?
We've got a frequency.
Yeah. Whoa, you didn't bring your calculator either. Oh! She was hiding it and just looking all innocent. Okay, so back to the story. So we're going to go down, and now C01, what are we going to put in for it? Mr. Green, what are we going to put in for C01?
1.
C01.
3, 4, 3.
C01.
233, 500.
Very good. 233, 500.
Pressure's real.
Yeah. Hit enter. I'm going to give you a chance of redemption. What button do we hit next?
Arrow down.
Very good. Now, F01, what do we put in?
4.
Yeah, we put in 4 because it's years 1, 2, 3, 4. It happens 4 times in a row, right? Now, after you put in 4, you're going to hit the enter button. And then, Ms. Ware, what do we hit next?
Arrow down.
Very good, arrow down. And what do we put in for C02?
206,110.
Very good, 206,110. Hit enter. Now, in order to calculate the IRR, what button do I hit, Mr. Osawagwu? Oh, very good. Hit IRR, and then what button do you have to hit after that, Ms. Volkova? Yeah, compute. Not all my questions to you are going to be hard, right? Okay, so hit compute, and what do you get? 36.26%. So, what was the big trick here? This was the big trick. Net working capital went down at the beginning and up at the end. That's the big trick about this problem. Questions? The other thing is sometimes people freak out thinking that reducing costs is not really revenue, but it is. You can treat it like revenue.
Is there just one problem on the test, like 2 and 3?
There will be at most one problem on the test. Well, you can still get an A even if you don't do all. So, and here's how I could prove it to you. How many chapters are on the exam? 5. And so that means how many questions from each chapter? How many questions are on the exam? 40. Divide by 5 gives you 8. How many of those are going to be quantitative? 4. Out of the 4 questions from chapter 8, how many of them do you think are going to be really complex like this? Maybe 2? Maybe 3? Well, what if they were all?
That's like 50%.
Well, no.
That's a lot.
Out of 40. 2 out of 40 is 5%, folks.
But there will be.
Y'all are freaking out over nothing.
You can do a hard one on chapter 7.
Oh, okay. Well, if we get to that, we will. Okay, questions? Okay. Now, let's see here. So we've done that one. And now someone says question 22. Bam. The initial cost of a machine is $727,000 with an annual operating cost of $39,600. Each machine has a life of 5 years before it is replaced. What the hell? Ignore taxes. Okay. What's the equivalent annual cost of this machine if the required return is 16%? So let's look at what our cash flows look like here. Here's 0. By the way, equivalent annual costs. So money going out is going to be positive or negative? Positive. Okay, so what are we spending at time 0? 727,000. And then, how long is the life of the machine? 5 years. Does it say anything about a salvage value? No. So we're going to assume this thing dies worthless. Okay, so that means that years 1 through 5 are all the same. And annual operating costs are $39,600. Now, you may see a problem on the exam that says the operating cash flow is negative something, right? That's exactly the same thing as saying the costs are that. So don't freak out. Okay, now we're trying to find the equivalent annual cost. What button should I hit on my calculator first? Ms. Minutes.
Second, TV.
Oh, you are stepping ahead just like Mr. Green did. CF, second, clear work. CF, second, clear work. What do we put in for CF0? 727,000. Do we make it negative? No. Okay.
Can you just explain why real quick?
Yeah, because it's a cost. This is a cost, this is a cost. Therefore, they're both the same sum.
Not necessarily an investment.
Well, it is. It's an investment, but we're looking at nothing but cost here. We're not looking at revenues.
Well,
Right.
I'm sorry, we could just make everything negative. anytime
You
we-
could,
Yeah.
but here's why I don't do that. A, I'm lazy, and B, I make mistakes.
Sure.
Right? So if you're not lazy and you don't make mistakes, feel free. Mr. Sadai is probably the only person in here that is not lazy and doesn't.
We're just trying to think it easy, to just,
Yeah.
that's what it is, that's why we
Yep.
got to hit the button.
You could do that. You could certainly do that. Okay, now, Aerodoubt. What do we put in for C01? Ms. Bergner.
39,600.
Very good. 39,600. Hit enter. Arrow down. Ms. Caviani, what are we going to use for F01?
5.
5. Why?
Because there's, it's a 5 year.
Yeah, we got 5 years in the same cash flow, right? 5. Enter. Now it's asking us for, we're trying to get to equivalent annual cost. What button do I have to hit next? Very good, NPV. Hit NPV. And now, what are we going to put in for I?
16.
16. Enter. What button do I hit next, Mr. Taylor?
I'm stuck on that one.
You're stuck on that one. So you've hit the NPV
Yeah.
button, and you put in the
16.
interest rate. Try hitting your down arrow and see what it says.
MPV.
Very good. Okay, now, it's sitting there probably saying 0 or something, right? Do you think that's correct?
No.
No. There's little bitty words up at the top of the screen. What do they say?
Compute.
Compute. It's telling you what to do. Hit the compute. What do you get?
I got 856, 662.
Okay, very good. Here's what I want you to do. Store 1, just in case everything goes horribly, horribly wrong. Store 1. Okay. Now, I want you to hit second clear TVM. This is where Ms. Menace was moments ago. Second clear TVM, and then we're going to hit clear once. What does your screen say now?
Clear, just like clear work.
Yeah, just down at the
Clear.
bottom. Oh no. Okay, so here's what I want to do. I want to hit recall 1. See, that's why we stored it. Recall 1. And then, by the way, I could go ahead and make this negative, right? So negative, and then what button should I hit next? Yeah, present values. Hit PV. And now, what am I going to put in for N? 5, because that's the length of this project, 5 years. What do I put in for I over Y? 16. And then, how do I compute the equivalent annual cost? Yeah, compute payment. What do you get? 261, 632, 62, right? Boom. There we go.
I think I missed a step. So, what do you put in all the keys?
Okay,
five
so
right in.
we put in the present 856,662.03 negative as present value. And then what do we put in for N?
5.
5. What do we put in for I over Y? 16. That's the only, those are the only 3 things you need to put in there. And then what are we going to compute?
In it.
Yeah, compute the payment. Did you get it?
I got 334.
Oh, dude. Okay. Clear second, or your second clear TVM.
Yeah, no, I did that.
Okay. Now hit recall 1. What does your calculator say?
800 or 856,000.
Okay, so go ahead and hit the negative button,
Mhm.
and then hit PV.
Okay.
Now, what do you put in for N?
It's 261. I got it.
You got it this time? Okay. Other questions? Okay. Now we're on to chapter 21. We're going to start with the homework. There we go. And, oh wow, look at that.
That's better than that.
Yeah, well, the other one was practice, right? Actually, this isn't too bad because I think we still only have 25 surviving members of this class, right? People have been dropping like flies. Okay, back to the story. First one, number 6. Review. Winslow has agreed to be acquired by Farrier, Inc. for $25,000 worth of Farrier stock. So, Farrier currently has 1,500 shares of stock outstanding. Let's see if I can get this smaller. There we go. At $21 a share, Winslow has 1,000 shares outstanding at a price of 22. The incremental value of the acquisition is 4,000. What is the merger premium per share? Okay, let's figure this out. We are, so 25,000 worth of Farrier stock. How much is Farrier stock worth? 21. Okay, so let's see here. Winslow has 1,000 shares outstanding at a price of 22. So basically what we're going to try to do here is figure out how much we're spending per share of this firm and then subtract out what the current market price is. The incremental value of the acquisition is $4,000. What's the merger premium per share? Okay, we know that the value of the merged firm is equal to the value of the target, or the value of the acquiring firm, plus the value of the target, plus what? The incremental value. Okay, how do I figure out the standalone value? How do I figure out the standalone value for the acquiring firm?
1,500 times 21.
Yeah, 1,500 times 21. Can someone tell me that number?
31,500.
31,500? Okay. The standalone value of B, so the target has 1,000 at 22. Now, what's the incremental value of the merger?
4,000.
Okay, so 31.5 plus 22 is what, 53.5? So we're looking at 57.5 here? 57,500. Now, they are going to, for $25,000 worth of their stock, how many shares are they going to have to issue? 25,000, and what are their shares currently worth?
21.
21. So how many shares do they have to issue? 1,119.4. Okay, well, let's go with this.
100. It's 1,190.
90. Okay.
Oh,
0.4. Okay, so how many shares are we going to have now?
2,690.
So 2,600, so we've got, what, 1,500 plus 1,190.4 is equal to 2,690.4. So that's the number of shares that are going to be outstanding. And we know that the firm is going to be worth that much, right? And so 57,500 divided by 2,690.4. Someone give me that number.
21.37.
21.37. I think I may actually be figuring the wrong thing here. I'm actually headed toward
Yeah, that's
net present value, right? Okay, so let's talk about this incremental value of the acquisition is $4,000. What's the merger premium per share? And so if they're offering 25, so yeah, oh, this is far easier than I'm making it. Okay, so they've currently got 22,000, so they're currently worth how much?
81.
No, so we got $22 per share times 1,000. How much is that worth? 22,000. How much are we paying? 25,000. And so that's how much per share? $3. I am sorry I was making that harder than it had to
So if
be.
you were gonna find NPV, right now we have the new price per share.
Yeah, so we've got the new price per share And the old price per share was how much?
20,
No, for the acquiring firm.
21.
21, and so the NPV per share is just 37 cents.
So then if you times that by the new number of shares,
And that's but it would be the previous number of shares, because keep in mind, this is the gain to the old shareholders, not everybody.
so 37 cents times 1,500
Yep.
is NCV.
Yep.
Okay.
Can you go again, please?
Okay, so again, for which one? The correct or the thing that we're supposed to be doing, or the thing?
So I did what you did,
Okay,
but I don't know how to.
okay, did you want to know how to do this question?
Is it gonna be an exam?
Well, hell yeah.
Okay.
So here's what we did. We're like, okay, this thing is, we're gonna pay 25,000 for it. It says it right there in the problem, right?
Yeah.
Okay, how much is it currently worth?
22.
22,000. So 25,000 minus 22,000 is how much? 3,000. And when we divide that by the 1,000 shares, 3,000 divided by 1,000 is?
Sorry, I'm looking there.
Okay. How much are we gonna pay for this pig?
We're gonna pay 25.
Yeah, what's it really worth?
22.
What's 25 minus 22?
3,000.
25,000 minus 22,000 is 3,000.
Yeah.
How many shares are outstanding?
Oh, 1,000.
Boop. Okay, the other way we could have done this is said, wait a minute, they're gonna pay 25,000 for 1,000 shares. How much are they paying per share? 25.
So it's the formula for merging premium per share, so I can put in the.
Okay,
sheet.
so
It's actual.
what do I pay per share
Actual cost.
minus the actual value per share? Whew. Okay, but hey, luckily we caught an NPV there too. Who knows, there may be another one here. Okay, now let's move on. This time I will actually read the question in advance. So at the end, it's asking what's the value per share of firm B after acquisition? Okay, so firm B, control minus. Firm BA is being acquired by firm B for $24,000 of firm B stock. The incremental value of the acquisition is $3,500. Firm A has 1,500 shares of stock outstanding at a price of $15 per share. Firm B has 12,000 shares outstanding at a price of $30 per share. What's the value per share of firm B after the acquisition? Okay, so in this case, everything is reversed. They're saying that firm B is doing the acquiring. So we switch these. B is the acquirer, A is the target. So what is the standalone value of firm B?
36.
1,200 times 30.
1,200 times 30. Very good. So that's what, 36,000? Is that right? 36,000. What's the standalone value of firm A?
22,500.
Very good. Is that correct?
Yeah.
What's the incremental value of the merger?
3,500.
3,500. I'm getting 62,000. Is that right? Okay. Now, we know the total value of the firm after the merger. Now all we need to know is the total number of shares that are going to be outstanding. If they're going out there and spending $24,000 worth of their stock, $24,000 divided by $30 per share, how many shares are they having to issue? 800, very good. Now, how many shares then does that mean firm B is going to have afterwards? How many did they have before?
1,200.
1,200. And then you add the extra 800. Hopefully you can do this math in your head. 1,200 plus 800 is what?
2,000.
2,000. So what we're going to do is divide this by 2,000, and I think it is $31 per share. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you go over how you got the 800?
Yeah. Okay. So they're given $24,000 worth of their stock. How much is each share of firm B's stock worth? 30. What's 24,000 divided by 30? How many shares did they have to issue? 800. Does that make sense? Other questions? Okay, we're going to keep plowing through here. That's number 9. Now we're on to number 10. Firm X is being acquired by Firm Y for $35,000 worth of Firm Y stock. The incremental value of the acquisition is $2,500. Firm X has $2,000 of stock outstanding at a price of $16 a share. Firm Y has 1,200 shares of stock outstanding at a price of $40 per share. What's the actual cost of the acquisition using company stock? This is where it gets hairy. Okay. So Firm X is the target, right? Firm X is being acquired. We know that the value of this thing at the end let's see, Firm X is being acquired, so that's the target. Okay, so first of all, can anyone tell me what is the standalone value of Firm Y? How would we calculate it?
1,200 times 40.
1,200 times 40, which I think is what, 48,000? 48,000? Yeah. Okay, now, what's the standalone value of Firm X?
32,000.
Because it's 2,000 times 16. Does that make sense? And what is the incremental value of this 2,500? I think that's 82,500. Is that correct?
Yes.
Very good. Okay, so that's the top part. Now all we've got to do is figure out the number of shares that are going to be outstanding after the merger. So they say they're going to use 35,000 worth of Firm Y stock. Mr. Scott, how are we going to figure out the number of shares, new shares issued? We know it's 35?
35,000 divided by Firm Y, you said?
Yeah.
Divided
So-
by 1,200.
Nope. How much is each share of Firm Y stock worth?
40.
Yeah, so we're going to take 35,000 divided by 40. That's going to be the number of new shares. So can someone tell me what 35,000 divided by 40 is?
875.
Very good, thank you. That means we're going to have to issue 875 new shares of Firm Y stock. Firm Y beforehand had 1,200 outstanding. So I think now we have 2,075. Is that correct? Okay. Now, to figure out what the share price is after the merger, we've got 82,500 divided by 2,075. Can anyone tell me what that is?
39.759.
Right. 39.759. Okay, now the question asks this. What's the actual cost of the acquisition using company stock? We know that the stock they gave away, or they gave up, was worth $39.759. How many shares did they give up? 875, right? Can anyone do that multiplication there and tell me the number?
34,789.
Boop! There you go. That's the answer, right? Once again, only 4 calculations, right? And hopefully one of them will be the simple merger premium like I tried to make way too complex. Questions? Okay. Now we're on to number 10 from the practice. What the hell? The cost of capital of Zefco Inc. is 13.1% compared to 14.4% for Hadwell. Let's actually go ahead and read the last part because a lot of this is just crap. Which of the following rates is most appropriate to use as a discount rate when analyzing the acquisition of Hadwell by Zefco? The incremental stuff that's going on is going to be related to Hadwell, right? Should we be using Zefco's rate or Hadwell's rate? Hadwell. Remember I told you about when I was at Halliburton, how we used our weighted average cost of capital to buy this really risky Scottish company? We were using 11.9%. Their WACC was 25%. We should have been using their rate. Always use the rate of the target. Always use the rate of the target because that's the riskiness of the assets you're taking on. Always use the risk of the target. And so all we have to do is figure out what Hadwell's cost of capital is. It's 14.4%. Now, the rest of this stuff with the expected market rate and the risk-free rate and all that stuff, is that of any value to you at all? No, that's one of the benefits of reading the question first and then going back. Does that make sense? By the way, I give you too much information, and occasionally students get really upset about that, but I'm here to tell you, in real life, what do you think the situation is? That you have too much information or that you have not enough? In real life, you have not enough, and if I gave you that kind of situation, you would be all over me, right? Sadly, that's what happened in engineering school, and they would say, make an assumption and write it down. Oh, that's just wrong. At least I'm not doing that to you. Also makes multiple choice hard. Okay, now I want to show you some, oh no, I can't show it to you. Look at this. 18 of you haven't even touched that. For shame, for shame. Let's assume that 6 of those people have dropped. That means a dozen of you haven't even touched it. Okay, so we got that one out of the way. Now let's go do chapter 17, number 2, practice. Okay, use the option information shown below to answer the questions below. The stock is currently selling for $35. Okay, so question A says, suppose you buy 18 contracts of the February 37 call option. February 37 means that the expiry date is February and the strike price is how much? 37. How much are those selling for? 103. So we're going to be buying 103, and then how many shares per contract?
100.
And then how many contracts? 18. Someone do that math and tell me what you get.
I got 1,854.
Very good. That's what they say the answer is. Okay. Suppose you buy 18 contracts and Microsoft stock is selling for $38 per share on the expiration date. So, $38 per share on the expiration date. What's the strike price? 37. What is the intrinsic value of each option? 1. And so we have the intrinsic value of 1. We've got 1,800 of those, so it's going to be $1,800 bucks. See it. Come on. Yep, there we go. What if the terminal stock price is 37? Yeah, it's 0, right? The intrinsic value, 37 minus 37, 0. What if it had been 36? 0, right? Okay. Suppose you buy 18 contracts of the August 37 put option. So the put option is August 37. What is your maximum potential gain? Well, so what's the best outcome for a put option?
It goes to 0.
It goes to 0. And so if this stock goes from 37 to 0, how much are you going to gain per share option? 37. And we said 18 contracts here. So what are we going to multiply 37 by? 1,800. So we've got 37 by 1,800. And, so someone go ahead and do that math for me, please. How much?
666.
666,
00.
00? So like that? Does that sound right?
Yep.
Okay. Now, that's payoff if this thing goes to 0. However, in order to be able to get that nice big juicy payoff, what do we have to do?
Paying for the put
Yeah, we had to pay for it. And how much did we have to pay?
290.
$290. So there's a couple of ways we could go about this. So we could say 37 minus 290 and figure out, well, that's 3410 and then multiply by 1800. Or we could go ahead and multiply 2.90 out by 1800, subtract the difference and divide by 1800. So let's go ahead and do it this way here. What's 3410 times 1800? $61,380, just like it says. Okay, so one more time, what did I do there? The maximum gain on a put is going to be if that sucker falls all the way to 0. By the way, could I figure out the maximum potential gain on a call? No, because the potential payoff is infinite, right? Okay, so what I did is I said, look, $37 a share that I can gain in payoff if this thing takes a dump. But in order for that to happen, I had to spend $2.90 to get the option. The difference is $34.10. How many shares worth of options did I have? 1,800 because I had 18 contracts. And how many shares per contract? 100. 100, always. Okay.
The volume line,
Yeah, what about it?
what is that refer to?
That has, so that's talking about the volume of these things that are, in fact, it's not necessarily volume. I believe this is open interest, meaning how many of these contracts currently exist. And so you could look at this volume-wise, outstanding interest-wise, and tell me which one is the most popular call. February 37. What's the least popular call? August 37. And in fact, we can see the same thing basically over here on puts. Questions?
We don't really need to look at the volume on each
No.
one.
No, no. I was just helping you out with your curiosity.
Because we have 18 contracts ourselves. It's 11.
Oh, do you think the volumes are actually in the number of contracts?
Oh, it's not that.
Probably thousands,
Thousands.
right?
Oh.
Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, let's see. On the expiration date, Microsoft is selling for $31 a share. How much is your options investment worth? Okay, so it's selling, we've got this August 37. What's the intrinsic value of the put option on that day?
6.
Yeah, 6. And how many of those things do we have?
18.
1,800. What's 6 times 1,800?
Yeah.
10,800? Okay. Now, on that day, so what's your net gain? So all we have to do is take 10,800 minus 2.90 times 1,800, and that should get us there. Another way we could do that is to say, well, that's gaining 6, and we paid $2.90 for it. 3.10 is the difference. 3.10 times 1,800 is how much? This number, 5,508, right? Okay. Suppose you sell 18. Do I have to keep going? You guys need to see more of this?
Can you do the break even at the very end?
Break even. Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, so what is the break even price? That is the terminal stock price that will result in 0 profit. So that is if you sell 18 of the put contracts. Remember, if you sell 18 of the put contracts, that means that you're going to lose money if the stock price goes down, right? So you're selling these things and you're receiving how much? when you sell, what does the quote say? You're selling the puts, you're gonna get $2.90 a piece. So, what we're saying here is this thing, as long as if it drops $2.90 and you've sold that put, then you broke even. So 37 minus $2.90, I'll bet it's gonna be like 34.10, there it is, right? Does that make sense? Questions? By the way, break even's the same for everybody, right? So what if you had bought the put? This thing's gonna have to, if it loses $2.90 on the share price, you're gonna gain $2.90 from that, but you paid $2.90 for that privilege, so the break even is the same for everybody, for both parties of the contract. Because remember, it's a zero-sum game. If Mr. Unfleet makes $1, I lose $1. If we're on the opposite sides of the same trade. Questions? Okay. Now, let's go to chapter 12. These are all practice. There we go. 16 students not started. Oh, disappointed. Number 6. Be given the following information for Terra Eta Power Company. Assume the company's tax rate is 22%. We've got 7.6% coupon bonds outstanding, 1,000 par value, 30 years to maturity, selling for 105% of par. The bonds make semi-annual payments. Common stock, we got 480,000 shares outstanding, selling for $66 a share. The beta is 1.09. And the market risk premium is 9%, and the risk-free rate is 5.6%. Okay, so here's where we're headed. We're headed to calculate, let's see, it's going to ask for, the weighted average cost of capital. We know that WACC is equal to the total equity over the total assets multiplied by the required return on the equity, right? And then the debt, total debt over total assets, times the required return on debt, times one more thing over here. What is it? 1 minus the tax rate, because interest is tax deductible. Okay, now let's figure out how we're going to get total equity. Can anyone tell me how to calculate total equity?
The stock times shares outstanding times shares.
Yeah, so 48,000, 480,000. 480,000. And how much are they selling for per share?
66.
66. Can someone do that math for me, please?
31,680,000.
So like that?
There's some zeros. I think so.
Your calculator has commas on it. Did you know that?
Yeah.
31,600,000.
Okay, very good. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to store 1. Store 1. Okay. Now, let's figure out the total value of the debt. Each bond is selling for how much?
1,000.
1,050.
1,050, right? Because it's 105% of par. 1,050, and how many of those things are outstanding? 9,000? 9,000. Okay. Can someone tell me how much that is?
9,450,000.
9,450,000. Now, I want you to store that in location 2. How are we going to find out the total assets?
Add them together.
Add them together. What do we get?
1 million.
Okay,
130. 0, 0, 0.
so like that?
Yeah.
Okay, I
Sorry,
want you to, that's okay. I want you to store that in location 3. I want you to store that in location 3. Okay, now, how am I gonna get this weight?
Store one divided by store three.
Yeah, divide by recall 3. That's how I'm gonna get that one. How am I gonna get this one? Recall 2, divide by recall 3. Okay, now, what is the only real thing that I have left to get? I've got to get my required return on equity, I've got to get my required return on debt, they give me the tax rate. Now, what information did they give us that will allow us to calculate the required return on debt?
The bond.
Yeah, so we're looking for the yield to maturity, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about what we would put into our calculator. First of all, second clear TVM. Second clear TVM. Does that look right? Okay. What's the coupon rate on these bonds?
76.
Yeah, so 7.6. So that means they pay 76 per year. But is this annual or semi-annual?
Semi.
Semi-annual. So payment is going to be 38. Does that make sense? Okay, future value. Oh, this one's easy. 1,000. Okay, now they've got to tell us how long these things have left. How much?
30 times 2.
Yeah, 30 years from maturity, and she says times 2 because they're semi-annual. And so now you need to compute I per Y. What is that?
Yield to maturity.
Say
Like
again?
it will be the debt, the RD, right?
Nope.
Well, times 2.
Yeah, we have to multiply by 2. So someone please tell me what I per Y is.
3.5956 and then we multiply by
3.5956. And so basically we're going to multiply that by 2. I'm guessing it comes out to around 7.2.
Yeah, 2.
Yeah, okay. So I want you to go ahead and let's call that number 4, right? That's your R sub D.
So
By the-
since it comes out as like 7.19, and you just divide it by 100, so it's like
Oh, well, we're going to do all of this stuff in percentages, or you could do it that way and do everything in decimals. Just don't mix it up, right? Okay. So as long as I keep both R sub B and R sub D as either percents or decimals, I'm fine. This is the only one that I have no choice on. That's got to be decimals because it's boop, it's inside that, right? Okay. Now, let's try to figure out what R sub E is. They tell us the market risk premium, they tell us the risk-free rate, and they tell us the beta. So what am I going to use to find the required return on equity? I'm going to use security market line. And so the expected return on stock I is equal to the risk-free rate plus the beta on stock I times the expected return on the market minus the risk-free rate. But this whole thing is the market risk premium, right? And so I don't have to subtract out of that. What do they tell me the market risk premium is? 9%. 9%. And then the risk-free rate is how much? 5.6. And then how much is beta? 1.09. Very good. Okay, so how would I work this? 1.09 times 9. I'm going to say that's 9.81%. 9.81% plus 5.6 is 14.81, 15.41. Does that sound right? Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to store that as location 5. Store that as location 5. So now we just have our, there we go, and this is location 4, is that right? Yeah. And we've already been given the tax rate. And so here, it's just a matter of getting the math done and doing it correctly. Do I need to walk through? In fact, our time is up, so I probably don't need to walk through it.